Hello, hello, hello. We are live. I am excited. It is good to see you, JD. Welcome back, everybody. This is like our third or fourth, or my third or fourth time with the conversation. And as you know, the conversation is where two licensed therapists come together and talk about different topics. We are licensed therapists, but we are not your therapists. This is not therapy. So please don't use this as a form of therapy. We are simply two therapists just talking about um, different conversations and topics that we've received and that we think is important to share within the community. I would also encourage, if you're watching any of our podcasts, for you to share any topic that you'd like for us to talk about, or if you would like to be a guest on the show, send me a request. You can reach me at The Wives Inc. at yahoo.com. Again, The Wives Inc. at yahoo.com. Again, I am Natasha Lamar, your host, and I have a great guest who's very knowledgeable about relationship. And so I would like for Jadia to introduce herself and just tell the people what you'd like for them to know about you.
Yes, I'm Jadia, and my banner says it all, licensed professional counselor. So just reach out to me. You can find me at youareworthy.org. And this is an exciting topic that you have us discussing today. So like, share, comment.
Coobies. Thank you and welcome again. Now, I consider myself to be a relationship expert. I've been working with couples for over 10 years. My dissertation training deals with couples and relationship and the importance of strengthening relationships. I am a sex therapist, so I have a lot of, and not that sex therapy is geared specifically for couples, but it's definitely hard to work with couples and not have some experience with human sexuality. So I'm excited about this topic. This is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about, amongst others. But this is part one because I already know for a fact these podcasts is only 15 minutes, and I know for a fact we would not be able to pack in all of the good information that I would like to share. So this is part one. There will be a part two on next week. So we are talking about creating and maintaining relationship. Now, when I speak of relationship, it's not always just intimate partner. It could be with a friend or with a family member, so on and so forth. So when I speak of relationships, I will distinguish when I'm talking about intimate partner or when I'm talking about just with your friend. So before we get started, I want to ask you, JD, what are your thoughts, or what do you think it takes to create? And let me be clear when I say this. I think it's important to distinguish between create and maintain, because I feel sometimes it's easier to create than it is to maintain. It's like losing weight. Sometimes it's easy to lose the weight, but it's hard to maintain and keep the weight off. And that's how I see relationships. Sometimes it's easy to get in relationship with somebody, but then to create and maintain that relationship can be a little challenging. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts, or what is it that you think individuals need? And now I'm talking about intimate partner, right? What do you think people need to create relationships or a relationship with a partner?
That's a very good question. And the thing that I would have people begin to look at is knowing oneself. You have to know who you are to know what type of relationships you're going to create, because unconsciously we project onto others who we are. So if I think that if I'm an individual that love honesty, then I'm going to assume that the person that I'm interacting with is also that person that also likes honesty, or a person of integrity, or whatever it is. So when I know myself, then that means that that's where it all begins. And if I don't know who I am, then that means I'm looking for people to define who I am, or I am being defined by the people that I interact with. And that's where the breakdown shows up, because when I don't know who I am, I can't see the other people in front of me for me to be able to actually look at them and go, oh, this person has no integrity. This person is a liar. This person doesn't value connection. But when I project that onto you, then I'm not seeing what's called red flags, yellow flags, whatever type. But they're flags.
Right,
So
right,
that's
right.
to me, that's the first and most important step from my perspective. But I'm interested in what you think.
That's awesome, right? That's what I have on my note card. It's like know thyself, know yourself. And you said something that was spot on. You're right. We project what we expect. So the things that we expect from people is what we're really projecting from our own lens and from our own understanding of life. And I want to go a little further about knowing thyself. And I get people to say, what do you mean by know yourself, know thyself? And I want to be a little specific. Know your strengths. Know the things that you're really good in. So when you get into a relationship and someone is compromising that or someone is challenging that, it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a problem because I know for a fact that I'm good at this. And if a person is questioning me about this, then there may be some issues or that red flag. Know your weaknesses. Know the things that you struggle with. I feel like sometimes people don't honor themselves and knowing their weaknesses because they're so focused on knowing their strengths. But what are your weaknesses? Because you know what else I believe? I believe due to our lack of or insecurities, we lead with our weaknesses. And so sometimes when we are insecure about something so that others don't see us in that light, we lead with this grandiose idea of that insecurity that we have. And so what your when you know what your weakness is and you see yourself leading with that, you can say to yourself, why do I feel the need to lead with that? Again, it goes back to knowing yourself. Know your triggers. What are your triggers? What are the things that push buttons inside of you? And I say this and I live by it. Your trigger is never about someone else. I'm going to say that again. Your trigger is never about someone else. Your trigger is an emotional, visceral reaction that you have to a word, a person, a smell, a behavior, or, anything like that. But it's something that is already existing inside of you. And I like to share with my clients, no one can push a button in you that doesn't exist. If someone is pushing a button in you, you have to then begin to ask yourself, why am I being so emotionally aroused by this? Because it's probably directly connected to some unresolved stuff, be it from your childhood and or from past relationships. What are your thoughts about, knowing thyself as it relates to your strength and your weaknesses and your triggers?
I think you're absolutely point on. The thing that I really like what you said. No one can flip a button if the button wasn't already there, and I really like that. In other words, if it upsets you, if you spot it in someone else, it's your stuff. You're gonna have to heal it and deal with it. You said some other things, so that relates to your trigger. The thing that I notice is that a lot of times people don't know what's triggering them.
Mm,
They really do project, like that person made me angry, that person is annoying me, or whatever it is. And you're right. If you're doing this, the pointing the finger, there are three pointing back at you. So that means that you really need to go within and figure out what's going on with you. The other thing that I like that you said when you talked about the strengths and the weaknesses, you need to know what your strengths are. And we do lead with our strengths and we do conceal our weaknesses. And the reason that we do that is that when I first meet you, I don't know you. I don't know if I'm safe with you. I don't know if I can trust you with the things that are where I feel my most vulnerable, where I'm my most raw. And I like what Brene Brown said, Dr. Brene Brown, because she's not my friend. I like what she said when she said everybody doesn't deserve
right.
to know your stuff, to know your secrets. And that's where the art of discernment comes in. However, we have to be really clear about who we are. And the way that we begin exploring who we are is looking at first what do I enjoy?
Right.
What are those pleasures? What are those good things? Because most people really are a little unsure about who they are. And there's nothing wrong with admitting, like, you know what, I really don't know who I am. And that's why you can have a weak sense of self. And when you have
Mhm.
a weak sense of self, then you will lose yourself in a relationship. And it's not just those romantic relationships. You can lose yourself in your friendships. You can lose yourself in your work relationships. We forget that work is a relationship. You can lose yourself in your community relationships, such as church, because a lot of people tend to volunteer in church or they go to church, or any social, or not social, but any organization that you're volunteering your time, you can lose yourself, and those are relationships. But when you know who you are, then you know your limits.
Ooh.
That's what I think is there.
Right, right. I like that. I want to double back because you said something that I think it made a lot of sense, but I want to kind of bring this to your attention. I do believe that we lead with our weaknesses. I mean, wait a minute. I do believe that we lead with our strengths. I do. I also believe that we lead with our weaknesses. And what I mean by that, let's say a person has a weakness in their self esteem. They may boast themselves up and act as if they have high self-esteem so that other people don't see that insecurity. Or either with education, have you ever met somebody that act like they know everything and act like they know every word in the dictionary, right? When the truth is their fear of being exposed, of not feeling smart or being smart or not wanting to look like the person with the least amount of education in the room, they show up as this scholar, right? And that's what I mean when I say leading with your weaknesses and or your insecurities. I think it can go both ways, but I think when you're not aware, you will lead with it and won't even realize that is an insecurity. And so when you get in front of people and they either, and I don't mean challenge you in a negative way, but they're asking questions, it could then feel like they're questioning your, challenging your intelligence or whatever it is that you're leading with, because it's a false sense of self. Like you just mentioned, it's a weak sense of self. And so that's what I mean. If you are not aware of both, it can impact the way you show up when you are attempting to get into a relationship, whether it's intimate partner or with a friend or a coworker.
I agree with you because I know that that used to be one of the things that I struggled with. I would lead with, well, I still do. I lead with my intellect. In other words, I look at people like smart people. So for me, it's about having knowledge about a little bit of everything. But that's a weakness of mine because I want to be accepted, and I want to know that you like me, and I know that people like smart people. So then I lead with that, and we all, and that's a survival mechanism
Right,
when I'm in what I think is an unsafe, unconsciously unsafe environment. Then the thing that I do is I start leading with what I know, and then that draws to me certain people. So
right,
is that an insecurity of mine? So now that I know it about myself, then I recognize, oh, you're doing that thing. You're leading with your intellect. And so that says to me, you must not feel safe. Because now that I don't recognize that that's something that I do, but people lead with different things. They lead with their sexuality.
right,
They lead with their beauty.
right.
They lead with their resources, right? Like a man who flexes, and he doesn't have to talk, but he can have like these. He can have a Rolex watch, like blinged out Rolex, and
Yeah,
most people know a Rolex is expensive, even if it's
yeah.
not blinged out. That's leading with resources, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that if it's yours. You need to be mindful that if that's what you're doing, and you're drawn to you a certain caliber of people
Right,
that you now don't like, then you need to check yourself. So you're absolutely right. Know that you're leading with your weaknesses as well,
right,
because it's communicating something to you about you.
right. I want to jump in because I think you are probably one of the smartest people I know. So, and I'm not debating you on what you lead with. I'm not, but I I think, and this is just the chatter that I'm having in my mind. People lead with I think people lead with strengths, and I think they lead with weaknesses. It's one thing to lead with something when you can back it up, almost like what you were just saying. If a man is flexing, because men do flex, that's just the truth. And sometimes, what's that saying? They say it ain't flexing if you got it, and I get that, right? And so, but it's when you are aware, because I think if you are a male with a certain financial status, then you're not really flexing. You just showing up as yourself. And again, I'm going back to you. I think when you lead with your intelligence, for me, my experience with you is you're showing up as yourself, because I do see you as a very smart, intelligent person. So I was saying that, but do you see how easy it is for us people not to even be not do you see how easy it is for people to not even be aware of kind of what's happening? That's why I think when you're creating and maintaining relationships, you got to know yourself. You need to know, because you said something. You said, because I want to be liked. The truth is, we all want to be liked. We want connection. That's how we're wired, to be in connection with people. And we want people to like us. Even though you say, I don't care what people say about me. Yeah, you do. I mean, because there's a desire and a natural, innate desire to be in relationship with people. So I think it's really, really good. Well, listen, hey, I think we are off to a really, really good start about talking about how to create and maintain. I really feel like we talked a lot about how to create, and I think part two we'll talk a little bit about maintaining. And I know for me, I would like to share one of the things that I use in my marriage and that I teach my couples, and it's how to fight fair. Now, I remember when I say the word fight, you're like, I don't like fight. So listen, people, when I talk about fighting, I'm not talking about a physical fight, right? I'm talking about a dispute, a verbal disagreement. So I'm not talking about physical abuse. I'm just talking about a disagreement. So when I refer to fighting, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk a lot about how to fight fair in part two. Anything you would like to share before we close out?
No, I think this was a really good topic, and you're right. We didn't even get to the second part, which is maintaining it. But it's important because this is going to impact the maintaining as well. Because I'm reminded of what Chris Rock said: when you meet a woman, you meet her representative, or when you meet people, you meet their representative. And so that's what we done touched on today. Like, oh, these are representative, but it's still a part of who the person is. But now it's understanding why the representative shows up. But excellent. I'm looking forward to the next part.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you all for tuning in. Remember, comment, send us an email, send me an email. If you want to hear a certain topic, let me know. If you would like to be a guest on the conversation, just let me know. I'd love to have you on again. Have a great day. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.